The rain had started as a whisper and grown into a roar, rattling the thin windows of Lena's small rented house. She stood in the narrow hallway, one hand on her son's bedroom door, listening to his breathing slow into sleep. The day had drained her. Double shifts, unpaid bills stacked like quiet accusations on the kitchen table, and the familiar ache of doing everything alone. She pulled the threadbare cardigan tighter around herself and turned toward the living room, planning to collapse for a few minutes before tackling the dishes. That was when the knock came. It wasn't loud or demanding. Just 3 careful taps, almost hesitant, as if the person on the other side might disappear if ignored too long. Lena froze. No one ever came by this late. Her mind jumped to every warning she'd ever heard. Single women shouldn't open doors at night. Kindness could be dangerous. Fear was safer than regret. Another knock followed, softer than the first. Lena crept to the door and peered through the cracked curtain. A man stood on the porch, soaked to the skin, rain plastering dark hair to his forehead. He looked exhausted rather than threatening, shoulders slumped, hands visible at his sides. When she opened the door just a few inches, cold air rushed in with the smell of wet asphalt. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said quickly, voice steady but worn. "My car broke down a mile back. My phone died, and I saw your light on." Lena studied his face. No slurred words, no wandering eyes, just embarrassment and restraint. She glanced back toward her son's room, her heart tightening. She had been the stranger once. New city, no safety net, praying someone would help her without asking for anything in return. "It's late," she said cautiously. "I know," he replied, nodding. "I just need somewhere dry until morning. I can sleep on the floor. Or the porch. I don't want to be trouble." The rain intensified, as if daring her to choose. Lena sighed, the weight of the world pressing against her ribs. She opened the door wider. "Come in," she said. "Just for the night." Relief crossed his face, genuine and unguarded. "Thank you," he said softly. "I'm Evan." She handed him an old towel and pointed toward the living room. "I'm Lena. Keep your voice down. My son's asleep." As he wiped rain from his hair, Lena felt the strange shift that comes when a decision can't be undone. She didn't know who Evan really was. She didn't know that this night would ripple into her life in ways she couldn't imagine. All she knew was that, for the first time in a long while, she had chosen compassion over fear, and the door was now closed behind them both. The house felt different once the door closed, as if it were holding its breath. Lena led Evan into the modest living room, where a faded couch sat against the wall and a small lamp cast a warm, uneven glow. The storm outside raged on, but inside there was only the soft hum of the old refrigerator and the ticking of a clock that never kept perfect time. "Bathroom's there," Lena said, pointing down the short hallway. "You can dry off. I'll make some tea." Evan nodded, still careful, as if one wrong move might send him back into the rain. When he returned, sleeves rolled up and hair towel dried, Lena noticed his hands. Steady, capable, the kind that looked used to fixing things rather than breaking them. She handed him a chipped mug and sat across from him, leaving space between them. Silence settled, not awkward, just cautious. The heater sputtered suddenly, coughing out a breath of lukewarm air before going quiet again. Lena groaned. "It does that," she muttered. "Landlord says it's good enough." "Mind if I take a look?" Evan asked gently. "I've worked with stubborn machines before." She hesitated, then nodded. Watching him kneel by the heater, adjusting a loose wire and tapping the side with practiced precision, something in Lena's chest loosened. A few seconds later, warm air flowed steadily. It wasn't magic, just effort, but it felt like a small miracle. "Thank you," she said, surprised at how emotional the word sounded. They talked then, quietly, as the tea cooled between them. Lena didn't give him her whole story, just enough: how her husband had left, how she worked 2 jobs, how her son was her entire world. Evan listened without interrupting, without offering pity. When he spoke, he kept things vague, moving a lot, carrying expectations, feeling lonely in crowded rooms. A soft footstep broke the moment. Lena's son appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. Panic flickered through her, until Evan slowly stood back, hands open. "Hey there," he said softly, lowering himself to the child's level. "Sorry if I woke you." Her son studied him, then nodded solemnly. "It's loud outside." It is, Evan agreed. But you're safe. Your mom's got you. The words landed deep. Lena swallowed hard as she guided her son back to bed. When she returned, the silence felt warmer, earned. She pointed to the spare room. You can sleep there, she said. Lock the door if you want. Evan met her eyes, gratitude shining through restraint. Thank you for trusting me. As Lena turned off the light, she realized it wasn't just a stranger she'd let into her home. It was a quiet reminder that not all kindness came with a price. Morning arrived too quickly. Gray light slipped through the thin curtains, and for a brief, disorienting second, Lena forgot about the stranger in the spare room. Then memory rushed back. The rain, the knock, the quiet conversation. She sat up, heart thudding, and listened. The house was silent. She moved down the hallway, pausing outside the spare room. The door stood open. The bed was neatly made, the blanket folded with almost excessive care. No sign that anyone had slept there at all. For a moment, disappointment surprised her. She told herself it was relief. On the small kitchen table lay a folded piece of paper beside her son's crayon drawing from the night before. Lena opened it. Thank you for trusting a stranger, the note read. You reminded me that kindness still exists. I won't forget it. She exhaled slowly, pressing the paper flat with her palm. No phone number, no promise, just gratitude. That was probably for the best. The rush of the morning swallowed the moment whole. Breakfast, backpacks, a quick kiss on her son's forehead before she hurried him to the neighbor's place. By the time Lena reached the office building downtown, the night already felt unreal, like a dream fading under fluorescent lights. But something was off. The lobby buzzed with energy she'd never felt before. People whispered in clusters, straightening their clothes, glancing at the elevators. Her supervisor rushed past without acknowledging her. New CEO, a coworker hissed. Apparently he's showing up in person. No warning. Lena frowned. CEOs didn't just show up. She took her seat, trying to focus, when the sudden hush fell over the floor. The elevator dinged. Footsteps approached. Measured, confident. Lena looked up, and the world tilted. Evan walked in. Gone was the worn jacket and borrowed towel. He wore a tailored suit, crisp and commanding, posture straight, eyes sharp. People stood instinctively. Someone introduced him with reverence, listing achievements Lena had no context for. Evan smiled, professional and distant, until his gaze found hers. For half a second, the mask cracked. Recognition flared. Shock. Then control slid back into place like armor. To everyone else, he was the embodiment of authority. To Lena, he was still the man who had sat on her couch, listening as if her life mattered. Their eyes locked, a silent collision of two worlds. Evan inclined his head, barely perceptible, but deliberate. Not a favor, not an apology, an acknowledgement. Lena's heart raced as she slowly sat back down. The room returned to motion, but she remained frozen, one thought echoing louder than the rest. She hadn't just helped a stranger. She had sheltered the most powerful man in the company, and he knew exactly who she was. The rest of the day moved in a blur, but Lena felt painfully alert, as if every sound were turned up too loud. Emails came and went. Meetings were scheduled and rescheduled. Yet beneath it all pulsed one steady awareness. Evan was somewhere in the building. Not as a stranger needing help, but as the man whose name now sat at the very top of the company directory. Late in the afternoon, a message popped up on her screen. Evan Carter would like to see you. Her stomach tightened. Heads turned as she stood, whispers blooming behind her. Lena straightened her shoulders and reminded herself she hadn't done anything wrong. Kindness wasn't a crime. His office was nothing like her house. Floor-to-ceiling windows, clean lines, expensive silence. Evan stood as she entered, gesturing for the door to remain open. I wanted this to be clear, he said before she could speak. No closed doors, no pressure. She appreciated that more than he knew. Why am I here? Lena asked, her voice calm despite the storm inside. Evan leaned against the desk, not sitting, not towering. To say thank you, properly. He paused. And to apologize. I didn't lie last night, but I didn't tell you everything either. You didn't owe me your resume, she replied. I helped because I wanted to. A faint smile touched his face. That's exactly why I needed to say this out loud. His expression grew serious. Nothing about your job will change because of me. No favors. No expectations. If anything, I want to make sure you're protected. From rumors, from assumptions, from me. Lena studied him, searching for entitlement, for arrogance. She found none. Just a man used to power, trying not to misuse it. I don't need saving, she said quietly. I need respect. You have it, Evan replied without hesitation. They stood there, the distance between them filled with understanding rather than tension. Lena realized something then. The shock of the night wasn't discovering who Evan was. It was discovering who she was when faced with power, unafraid, unbending, whole. When she left the office, the whispers no longer mattered. She walked back to her desk with steady steps, the note from that morning tucked safely in her bag. Lena didn't know if Evan would remain a chapter in her life or fade into memory. But she did know this: she hadn't just given shelter to a stranger. She had chosen herself.